Debbie and I were talking about these Twitter files revelations, and Debbie was like, so what? Like, what's going to actually happen? Because time and time again, we have revelations, the expose of Russia collusion, for example. What really happened to all those people? The expose of all the 51 intelligence officials who lied about Hunter Biden. Oh yeah, that story is not a real story. It's Russian disinformation. No, it's a real story. Well, what's going to happen to those guys? Well, at the very least, those guys need to be hauled up before the Republican Congress, embarrassed, publicly exposed, and a petition made for their security clearances to be taken away. These people are actually ideological frauds, and they are masquerading behind medals, and they're hiding behind titles. But these titles are meaningless because with the titles would normally go credibility or trust. These were people clearly willing to lie. Now, let's come back to the impact of all this in a broader sense. Like, is there going to be any impact, for example, on Facebook, on Meta? I mean, the censorship regime there is intact. The censorship regime at YouTube is intact. Look at what Google is doing behind closed doors. I mean, with Google, it's probably the worst of all. Why? Because it's invisible. I mean, think about it. When people do a Google search, they kind of think like they're going to a dictionary. I want to look up the meaning of this word. And of course, they think they're just going to go straight to the word. But they don't realize that there's a whole system of orchestration in terms of what word, what information, what links are put in front of you. And Google, there's no reason to believe that Google has people in there who are any different than Vijay Gadde or Yoel Roth. It's the same type of person. It's the same scumbag that is organizing and controlling. So America's political debate, and to some degree the global debate, regulated by a small group of petty tyrants. And there are kind of two possibilities. These Twitter revelations are eye-opening. They kind of show you, Twitter's showing you what a largely free speech platform now feels like. It's not entirely free speech. In fact, Heather Mullins, who just posted something on 2000 Mules, was put into a suspension, a temporary suspension, but the same silly warnings, election experts have determined, blah, blah, blah. And then she was released from it. And then I retweeted her on something. And again, she now messaged me this morning, I'm in another 12-hour. So Elon Musk has got to realize there are a lot of termites that are still in at Twitter. And so the fumigation is far from complete. There's a lot more work to be done. Yes, you got rid of James Baker, the FBI guy, but there are other FBI guys in there that were hired from the deep state by Twitter. You just need to go in with a broom, Elon Musk, and wipe them all out. Now, let's remember that when Twitter banned Trump, and this is a point made by Barry Weiss in Twitter Files number 5, there are all kinds of other leaders from, in fact, many times despotic countries that call for violence, urge violence, incite people to violence. Think of like the Ayatollah Khomeini. Think about the former Malaysian prime minister who said it was a, quote, right of Muslims to kill millions of French people. Now, Twitter deleted his quote, but he remains on the platform to this day. And so Barry Weiss's point is that Trump was being singled out. Trump's actual statements were benign, but they interpreted them as, oh, this is an incitement to violence, and yet there are other leaders inciting violence. And then Barry Weiss reminds us, now this is something we already knew, that there are a lot of people around the world, a lot of leaders, from Angela Merkel in Germany to Macron in France, to even Mexico's president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, who criticized the banning of Trump, because I think they recognize that this is a fundamental free speech issue. And if you can take this kind of arbitrary and really without genuine pretext action against the head of state, everybody is vulnerable. If you can do it to the sitting president, you essentially have virtually unlimited censorship power. And so you've got Macron, and these are not exactly right-wingers. Now, Merkel is slightly right of center, but Obrador is a socialist and Macron is to the left. And yet you had this almost, you could say, global clamor against what these social media platforms are done. Look, Elon Musk deserves a lot of credit. He is detoxifying something that has been suppressed and hidden. very bad stuff that's been going on behind closed doors. It's only the beginning of the glasnost or perestroika, if you want to call it, the kind of opening that we need. And Musk himself made the point that no national kind of healing or reconciliation or going forward is possible without a full accounting of the truth. And so what I'm now waiting for is Twitter Files number 6, subject COVID.